Frederick, Colorado is the kind of place people move to when they want to escape the chaos of the city. It's a landscape of manicured lawns, high-end SUVs, and sprawling suburban dreams. In 2018, Chris and Shanann Watts lived right in the center of that dream. To anyone watching online, their life was a masterclass in modern perfection. Shanann was a charismatic marketing representative who documented every milestone. Her social media was a gallery of happiness, her two beautiful daughters, Bella and Celeste, a new baby boy on the way, and her husband Chris, the quiet, soft-spoken oilfield operator who seemed entirely devoted to his family. She literally called him her rock. But behind the digital filter lay a suffocating reality. And on August 13, 2018, the screen went entirely blank. Within hours, a seemingly normal family man would become the face of one of the most chilling acts of domestic violence in modern history. The nightmare began on Monday afternoon. Nicole Atkinson, a close friend of Shanann, had driven her home from business trip at 2 a.m. that morning. By noon, Shanann had missed a crucial doctor's appointment and wasn't answering her phone. Knowing Shanann was 15 weeks pregnant and suffered from lupus, Nicole grew deeply alarmed. She went to house. No answer, she called Chris, who was at work, and then she called the police. When Chris arrived, the house was eerily still. Inside, investigators found no sign of struggle. Shannon's car keys, her wallet, and her vital medication were all left behind. Her phone was discovered tucked between the cushions of the sofa. The only thing missing, Shanann, 4-year-old Bella, and 3-year-old Celeste. Next day, Chris stood on his front porch, looking directly into television cameras. But instead of broken, panicked father, the public expected viewers saw something deeply unsettling. He was fidgeting, smiling at inappropriate moments, and talking about his family in a strangely detached, almost formal tone. He told reporters, "I don't know where they're at. It's just like the house is not complete without anybody here. Please bring them back." While Chris pleaded for their return on the news, the FBI and the Colorado Bureau of Investigation were already looking past the performance. They noticed something Chris hadn't realized. The neighborhood security camera showed Shanann entering the house at 2 a.m., but they never showed her or the children leaving. The only vehicle that left the driveway all morning was Chris' work truck. 2 days after the disappearance, investigators invited Chris to the police station for the voluntary polygraph test. He agreed, confident he could maintain his collected exterior. But as Chris sat in that room, the wall of his carefully constructed double life were already crashing down. Authorities had spent the last 48 hours combing through phone records, and they had uncovered a massive secret. Chris wasn't just a bored husband. He was a man leading a completely separate existence. For the past 2 months, Chris had been having an intense affair with a co-worker named Nicole Kissner. He had lied to her, telling her that he was separated and finalizing a divorce. To Nicole, he was a free man starting over. To Shanann, he had become cold, distant, and physically unavailable. Investigators realized Chris didn't just want out of his marriage. He wanted an entirely clean slate. The polygraph test took hours. When it was over, the results were definitive. Chris Watts didn't just fail. His score was abysmal, indicating extreme deception. The investigators shifted their strategy. They dropped the polite demeanor and confronted him directly. They told him they knew about the affair. They told him they knew he was lying. For hours, Chris held out, but then he asked to speak his father, Ronnie Watts, who had been brought to the station. It was in that small room, speaking to his dad, that Chris finally confessed to a horrific reality. But it was a confession wrapped in one final lie, cowardly lie. Chris claimed to his father that he had asked Shanann for separation, which sparked an argument. He claimed he walked away, and when he returned, he saw Shanann on the baby monitor, strangling Celeste, while Bill lay lifeless on the bed. Chris claimed that, in a fit of rage, he strangled Shanann to death to make her stop. It was a sickening attempt to shift the blame onto the woman he had destroyed. But regardless of the spin, Chris had finally given up the location of the bodies. He had taken them to a remote oil site operated by his employer, known as Service 319. When investigators arrived at the bleak industrial site, the reality of what Chris had done was far worse than anyone could have anticipated. Shanann was found buried in a shallow, unceremonious grave in the dirt, but it was the location of the children that broke the hearts of even the most veteran investigators. Chris had dropped 3-year-old Celeste and 4-year-old Bella through the narrow 8-inch hatch into the top of 2 separate crude oil tanks. Faced with the forensic evidence and the sheer impossibility of his story, Chris' narrative fell apart completely. Months later, he finally admitted to the unvarnished, terrifying truth of what happened in the dark, early hours of August 13th. There had been no attack by Shanann. After emotional confrontation about their crumbling relationship, Chris had pinned his pregnant wife down in their bed and strangled her to death. Even more horrific, the children were not dead yet. He loaded Shannon's body into the back of his truck and forced his 2 terrified, confused daughters to ride along with their mother's body out of the oil field. There, in the cold morning light, he took the life of his daughters one by one, ignoring 4-year-old Belle's final heartbreaking plea, "Daddy, no." In November 2018, to avoid the death penalty, Chris Watts pleaded guilty to all 9 counts against him, including first-degree murder and the unlawful termination of pregnancy. The judge sentenced him to 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. During the sentencing, the judge noted that this was perhaps the most cruel and vicious case he had ever handled in his entire career. Chris Watts was moved to a maximum security prison in Wisconsin, destined to spend the rest of his days inside the concrete cell. The Watts home stands as a quiet reminder of the tragedy that deeply shook the world. The true terror of Chris Watts' case isn't just the sheer brutality of the crime, it is how completely invisible the danger was. It forced us to confront a terrifying question. If a monster can hide behind the smile of a loving father next door, how well do we really know the people closest to us? The story of Watts' family is heartbreaking, a reminder of darkness that can hide directly behind a perfect digital facade. If you found this deep dive into psychology and timeline of this cage-gripping, please hit that like and drop your thoughts in the comment below. How do you think the system could have caught him sooner? Don't forget to click the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming professional crime documentaries. We cover the most baffling, cold cases, criminal minds, and true crime stories every single week. Thank you so much for watching and stay safe out there.